So we're going to have to run class a little bit different online. Hope everything's going well. Make sure you remember my office hours are Tuesday and Thursday from 12 to 2, so you can chime in any time during that space if you need some help. So we're going to have to give you some definitions here about polynomials. That was something that you were looking at last week. So there are things in the polynomial called a term, and those are the items, and they are separated by addition or subtraction signs. So if I have something like 3x plus 2, there are two terms. Notice it is separated by an addition or subtraction sign. So a polynomial is sometimes named by the number of terms it has. So we might call this a binomial because there are two terms. We also want to talk about the degree, and the degree is the exponent on a term. So the degree of 3x is the exponent on the variable, which is 1. So that degree is 1 of that polynomial. We also name polynomials with their degree, and what we're going to be looking for is the highest or largest degree. So for example, the highest or largest degree of this polynomial, which has 3 terms, is 2. So 2 we know is called a quadratic. So we name polynomials not just off the number of terms, but also their degree. Now we have to be careful. The highest degree is not always first. If we were writing it in correct mathematics, it would be first. But sometimes you might see a polynomial written as such. And I'll add a constant that has no degree. So this term has a degree of 1, this term has a degree of 5, this term has a degree of 3, and this has a degree of 0. So the largest degree, which we're going to be looking for, is that 5. So technically what we like to do is order the terms in what we call, whoops, that should have been a 2x cubed plus 3x plus 1. We want to order them in descending degree. The leading coefficient. The leading coefficient is the number in front of a variable. So the leading coefficient is the number on the first term. Now notice we had to have it ordered. So if I go back and look at this one, in order, the leading coefficient is 8. It would not be 3 because it's got to be in order before you find the leading coefficient. And the last thing we're going to look at is this thing called end behavior. So if I have a number line going to my right, that means x is headed toward infinity. So on the right-hand side of a graph, so we'll call this right-hand side, that's a calculus term. On the right-hand side of the graph, I'm looking, and you might have an arrow which says your graph is going up, or you might have an arrow that says your graph is going down. On the left-hand side, that's when x is approaching a negative infinity, just like on a number line. Okay, what happens on the left? I could have my graph going up, so in end, that would be my 2 end behaviors. I could have it going down. Those would be my 2 end behaviors. I could also have my graph be in different directions. So this one, it says it's going down, so I'm headed down. And then on this side, maybe I'm going like this. I'm going up. So these are my 2 end behaviors. What happened in the middle, I'm not going to be too concerned with. So these terms are all going to be related to a graph. And so what you're going to be working on this week is a graphing of these polynomials. And so hopefully we have some idea what this looks like. But notice it says use Desmos. So what I'd like you to do is get on Desmos and plot this. I know what the graph looks like. I'm hoping you remember what it looked like as well. So I can see my end behaviors, and those are the ends of the graph. On this side, where I'm going, where x is headed toward a negative infinity, I'm up. And on this side, as x heads toward a positive infinity, I'm also up. This function right here only has 1 term. I did not ask you about the number of terms, but I did ask you about the degree. The degree is 2. The leading coefficient, remember the coefficient is the number in front of the term with the largest degree or exponent. So this only has 1 term, and so The coefficient that's out here, if you recall, is a 1, even though you may not see it. And then we have this thing called y-intercept. You can get these right off Desmos. I can see my y-intercept right here because I knew what that graph looked like. So what you're asked to do is complete the rest of these cards, finding the degree, the leading coefficient, y-intercept, and behavior, and using Desmos to get a graph. I don't think I would plot these by hand. It would take you far too long to do that. So plot these by hand. When you're finished, you're going to sort these into categories. And we're going to, in our check-in this week, we're going to talk about how we sorted these in categories and why you did the sort that you did.